So I wanted to take a quick break here and show you what my process is when I'm writing a paper. Just like anybody else, I suffer from writer's block, and sometimes I get completely stuck, especially if I'm doing too much research or reviewing too many papers at once. You may not have this issue with the paper you're writing right now. Maybe you don't have that many references as I have, but I think the information I'm about to share with you may be helpful as you go through the MSLD program. So let me start by sharing the beginning of my process. As you see in here on my screen, I actually have two documents open. I have a PowerPoint document and the Word document. And of course, the Word document is where I'm actually writing my paper, but I'm going to start by showing you my PowerPoint document. So I created a PowerPoint document with the title of my research study. And of course, this is a matter of style. I like to make mine pretty. My PowerPoint's pretty just because looking at ugly PowerPoints takes away my creativity. Needless to say, you don't have to worry about making your PowerPoints pretty. The other reason that I create all those like little symbols and so on is not only for prettiness. There are two other reasons. One is that the symbols, they're actually categories that I'm beginning to perceive on my slides. So basically what I do is I go to, let's see, View, and then I go to Slide Master, and I create all these little categories on my Slide Master so that I can use them to divide my text. Anyway, I'm going ahead of myself. The very first thing that I do when I'm writing a very complicated paper is the hard work that I'm not sure I know how to minimize. And that is, I go through my literature review and I pick, I would say, the 10 to 15 most important articles, book chapters, or papers that I want to use in my initial writing. Now, note that I'm saying about 10 to 15 articles, just because if I include too many articles in there, I'm going to get lost. There's only so much that you can add in an initial summary. So I start writing my paper with about with a review of about 10 to 15 articles, and then after that I can add more as I go along. So imagine that I've already done all my summaries. I've already created summaries for each of my articles, and now is the point in which I'm trying to create a PowerPoint presentation that would include various key components of the papers that I read. Why am I transferring that to a PowerPoint? Because if you think about it, a PowerPoint, as you see here on the screen, can be seen as a series of index cards. Nice looking index cards. So if I go down here and I change my view to, what is the name of this view? Slide sorter view. You notice that not only I can move things around, so I can say, ooh, I think I should start talking about, in this case, the fact that ethics is a critical dimension for HR, and then move on to discussing the fact that even the very idea of being an HR manager raises ethical concerns. Or maybe I want to move these around and talk about the famous seat at the table that HR professionals keep wanting to have and move that earlier. So you see how it works as if I had a set of index cards, and instead of manually piling them on arranging them on my table or post-it notes on my table, I can actually arrange them quite easily. Also, as I add my critical quotes from various authors in here, it makes it easy for me to start categorizing them. So I'm looking at this particular quote here. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see better. And I'm thinking, okay, this particular quote, as enablers of the culture, HR professionals have a special obligation to act as models of the cultural aspirations of the organization. This looks to be in the category of ethics and HR. But if I go down and I start reading something such as the fact that HRM is aligned with management would not be a problem if the interests and needs of management and employees were the same. That is not always the case. That seems to be not specifically to do with the ethics of HR, but in the inherent conflict that exists in the HR field. If I go even lower, I created a category for empirical findings. I created a category for what some authors called depersonalization, which is what HR professionals go through. It really doesn't matter what my categories are, because obviously that depends on what paper you're writing and based on what. But you will see how, as I started adding various quotes, sometimes exact, sometimes paraphrased from the multiple articles that I read, I started organizing them, and I can always make this smaller and reorganize them. So this becomes my outline, and the beauty of my outline is that it includes actual quotes with quotation marks, and let me make this one bigger, page numbers. You can see how when I start writing my paper, not only I have a possible outline that I fumbled with my PowerPoint, but I also have the exact quotes, the page numbers. If it was paraphrased, then a paraphrase. One thing that I do is, as I'm writing my paper, let me go down here, I created a symbol for my own thoughts. And you can see how I'm being very clear on what is paraphrased. There are going to be quotation marks and page numbers. No, sorry, what is paraphrased that is only going to have the author's name. What is exact from the text, in which case there are going to be quotation marks and page numbers. And then I created a symbol for what is my idea, because even though my ideas is super important to link all these things together, my paper shouldn't feel like a paper quilt of different citations. It's important for me to know, after I review my notes, what was my idea, what was somebody else's idea, what was exact from a particular paper. That's how I avoid plagiarism. Okay, moving forward. Now, imagine that I have, using the slide view here, the slide sorter, I have sorted this out. I have created multiple categories. I have organized all these citations into categories. These categories could be subheadings, or even if they don't become subheadings, they can be areas of my paper or even paragraphs. So now I'm ready to start writing. Now, on the Mac, I'm not sure at this point how exactly you divide a screen. Of course, you can do this the manual way by making sure that your paper is not, your project, your document is not occupying the entire screen of the paper of the computer. Some people swear by having dual monitors. I don't, and I don't like working with dual monitors. So on Windows 10, what you do is you move it to this side. See here, I'm moving it to the corner. There are other things open in my computer, so I just move it up. I do the same thing with my Word document. Once again, my computer is telling me that other things are up. So then I move this up. And now I have these two things connected. And if I had done this right, which I haven't, I love it when you're trying to demonstrate something and it stops working. If I had done this correctly, then these two would be moving together. I did something wrong here. But at all events, if you don't do it perfectly, it doesn't really matter, because you can always manually kind of move these around. You can increase the size here. And now, as I'm writing my paper, I've already organized it. And then I start writing. So this is my first paragraph. Ethical considerations abound in the field of human resource management. That first sentence is mine. First, HRPs are expected to model the organization's values and aspired culture. Okay, now notice that two people said that. I noticed that I have that information here from these guys. HR professionals have a special obligation to act as models of culture. And then Here, there is someone else who said that managers have the potential to change, shape, redirect, and fundamentally alter the course of other people's lives. So then here it is. Second, HRP's decisions, HRPs is human resource professionals, can change, shape, redirect, and fundamentally alter the course of other people's lives. Of course, because this is exactly from this article, I didn't paraphrase it at all, then quotation marks, page numbers that I had already included here. Now I'm going to continue to write my article, but you see how using a PowerPoint first may give you a legs up, and it may get you out of writer's block, which very often happens if we don't try to organize our thoughts first. I personally find this method better than a simple word outline, but at the end of the day, do what works for you. Maybe if it's a PowerPoint outline like mine, maybe it's a simple word outline, maybe it's a series of post-its, maybe it's a mind map. The important thing is find a way for you to organize the chaos. And once you review a variety of papers, you are going to have a certain amount of chaos, and that chaos can very easily paralyze you. By the way, if your paper is more reflective, and some papers in this program will be more reflective, as in the most important piece of your paper is not so much citations from a variety of areas, but your own thoughts, the principle still remains. You could create a PowerPoint with your thoughts. Imagine that you're giving a presentation on it. I think the idea of giving a presentation, it fools your brain into becoming more organized. It forces you to think about the beginning, a middle, and an end of what you're actually doing. At least to me, that helps. But you can create a PowerPoint with your thoughts and your ideas, reorganize them, and then write your paper. Now, please, if you're one of those people who can just start writing and not get confused, more power to you. This advice is not supposed to work for everyone, just for those of you who are experiencing writer's block and who want some ideas to actually go past the dreaded, oh my God, what am I going to do with this empty piece of paper stage? Okay, if you have any other questions, if you're experiencing any other problems with the papers you're writing, please get in touch with me. Take care. Hope this is helpful.